Hello and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host Bryan. Today we're going to wrap up with a special selection, which is where one of you tell me exactly what it is I need to check out. Today's special selection comes at us from Zachary. Hakushi Hasegawa, KYŌFUNOHOSHI. That's what we're going to be checking out today. Let's just dive into it. There's no context. There's no way for me to prep myself for this. We have this thumbnail right here. That's all that I have to go on. Let's dive in and see what Hakushi Hasegawa is bringing to the table today. Ooh. Production-wise, I like the really crisp production, but harmonically it is very tense. That is an eclectic combination of sounds. Glitchy drill and bass, jazzy pop vocals? I don't know. And then coming in with this beautiful harmony. It's sonic collage. That's oh, what an ending. That penultimate chord into the final note. Yeah, that's music. That's kind of all I got for you. Ah, geez, this is chaos. Like I mentioned, Sonic Collage, though, there's a lot of different ideas all smashed together with totally different production values as well in order to create something that feels. Is it more than the sum of its parts? I think the individual values of the parts are definitely on display. It's very easy to see where everything comes from. Does it add up into something greater, though? I think so, maybe. It's tough though because I don't have a strong read on the song. I think ultimately it works. It doesn't ever fall apart, but man, that is tough to listen to though. Individual ideas, production values, they're all over the place. The vocals are crisp and clear. I'd probably say Vocaloid on this. There's just something a little bit of a digital edge to it. It's too perfect, I think. But then you have that trumpet off on the left corner over there, also probably digital. A little less clean, still crisp. I can hear all of the quick, short accentuations on notes. There's some really fast da 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 da. Those really fast, what would be double-tongued notes. They're very short, very abrupt. They hit the note and come off, very robotic style, but it sounds very crisp. But there is a general compression to it. It's missing some of the extra flavor or coloring of the instrument. It kind of comes off as a vague, brassy instrument more so than a trumpet, and there were a couple of moments when I kind of confused it for a saxophone, and honestly, at this point in time, I'm not 100% it is a trumpet. It is definitely a brassy kind of instrument, though. Um, but then you get to the drums, particularly the bass kick, and it is like 60% compression. A lot of it is just the white noise. You get the initial hit, and then it just immediately kicks into the fuzz of the tone. It becomes dominant. It's center channel with the vocals, but it takes up so much space and tries to overpower the vocals so often, especially given how often we hit this drum. It becomes this overpowering, almost louder than life heartbeat, like an artistic representation of someone's heart pounding out of their chest in a tense situation, such as in film, where maybe the camera gets a close up on the face, and then there's this resounding, bass drum pounding thing going on in the background that's getting louder and louder and louder. That kind of artistic interpretation of someone really feeling their heartbeat is kind of what this drum feels like all the time. Just constantly trying to take over the sound sphere and dominate the listener's attention. And like I said, when you pair it with the compression, it just has so much punch to it that the extra width, it just compounds on itself. Is it a good decision? You know what? I'm going to save that. Let's stick with some objective things. So we've done vocals. We've done. Oh, dude, what in the world is this auxiliary percussion clacking pitched sound? Really quick 16th note runs mixed with a synth. So we have this cool texture layering, but we have the percussive shortness of attack from what I think is like mallets on blocks, mixed with the longer decay of these synth pads, and they're just like just like really fast, flurry, shredding stuff. Uh it is bonkers, but I do like the sound of that combination of instruments. It's we've talked about this with electronic music. It can do cool things that you can't really do with real instruments, and that's one of them. That creates a sound that's just like candy to my brain. I love the way it works together. It's completely artificial, but it's tasty. It is candy. And that was very cool. Wild as all get out, but a very cool idea. And there was one, oh yeah, we have some harmonies on some synth pad also. Just going on throughout this track. Lots of dissonance in that. Those chords are not very harmonious. And that's pretty much what all of these instruments do for the... Well, that's how they sound. And kind of what they do. I kind of mixed that all together, didn't I? Well, I didn't talk about melodies. So that's where we'll go now. We have the lead vocal melody. It is catchy, it is bright, it is very forward moving, and it's one of the slower moving ideas, though. It has momentum, but not a lot of speed, at least comparatively so. With that stacked thing over here on the right with those fast 16th note runs, that's got a ton of movement to it. The drums have a lot of movement to them, though they're not pitched in a way that we would find anything melodious out of them. However, again, tons of energy. And I talked about the rapid double tonguing that we have on the trumpet, the brass instrument, over here on the left. Also, a very quick, furious idea coming out of the trumpet often. The band pushes this song forward with such a ferocity. We need something to counter that, and that's where the vocals come in. They're a bit more measured in their speed. They're not slow. They're not holding notes out, Celine Dion style. They still have a bit of a pace to them, but they feel slow against everything else. And I think that was really necessary to give the listener something to focus on amidst the chaos. And it makes sense it's the vocals because in pop music, that's where the listener's attention tends to be put anyways. So very smart decision there to root the song in the instrument the audience is most likely to listen to. And the way that this all balances out into something that feels breakneck speed but also controlled. I don't know how it works. I don't. I wish I could say, oh, they did this in the composition and then this in the production and it balanced things and it made it feel fast but not too. No, I honestly have no idea. And the thing is, too, is it really depends on what I'm listening to. If I tune into any of the percussion, I feel like I'm being dragged at a million miles an hour. If I tune into the vocals, I feel like I have a brisk sprint, a brisk walk, maybe. I'm definitely not taking my time, but I'm at least in control. I'm not being dragged through this adventure. But if I just back up, try to bask in the entirety of this song, it works. Despite the smorgasbord production where everything feels different, the sonic collage idea, despite the push and pull of the various instruments all at their own speeds, despite how disparate everything sounds, poppy vocals, jazzy brass work, drill and bass, whatever drum stuff is going on, and the eclectic avant-garde bell stuff over here, and the dissonant experimental harmonies in the pad, it all kind of comes together, doesn't it? How does that work? Everything in here is its own unique idea. It feels like, I'm going to date myself again. I'm really good at this. Y'all remember going to like appliance stores when you were younger and they would have walls of TVs? Oh, I guess they kind of still do have that. But now all the TVs play the same thing. It doesn't feel the same. Anyways, you would go and like every TV would have like something different on. And that's kind of what it feels like. I'm watching 5 different shows here, trying to ingest it all as a unified whole, and through some miracle, they're all kind of vaguely on the same topic. And so I can kind of interpret some bizarre alternate universe where all 5 of these different shows are collectively happening simultaneously. And it kind of works. You're like, oh, wait, they just caught this bad guy? And now they don't have to worry about a bad guy. Was it the same bad guys? Like little coincidences that pop up, and you're like, actually, this is kind of working. I have no idea how. That's what this music is like. Everything is so different, and yet it does come together into something unified and whole. But I have no way of quantifying that. I can't explain why this sound collage ends up working. It's just so wild. There are some really neat things in it too. The vocal harmony that I wasn't expecting, a little bit of call and response between the brass and the lead vocals. Uh, what was it in the bridge? Or can we call it a bridge? Something around like the 2.5 minute mark when we have a little bit of a shift before coming back to that main section. There's something in there that caught my ear too, and I can't remember what it was. I will say this though, it is not just sonic collage, but also auditory overload. At least for me. Maybe I'm just too old for this, but it's so difficult to focus on any one thing, and focusing on all of it, it's too much. But every single idea is also moving too fast as well, and I feel like an old man here, being left behind by modern art. I don't know. Let me see if I can find some lyrics. There were subtitles on this, but they were like super tiny. I could barely read them. I know y'all probably couldn't see them. If anything, I guess I'll look through those. We'll discuss the lyrics and then we'll wrap this video up. The lyrics are kind of what you would expect. I'm using Google Translate's lyrics simply because I could grab the full wall of text from Genius and toss it in here and have it all in front of me. I cross-checked it against the official lyrics from the music video, and they are generally similar, though sometimes have a little different wording, different vocabulary, but the idea comes across. So if I say something in here, and then you go and watch the music video later, you're like, hey, that's not what the lyrics were. Just the intention's similar, right? So the idea here, though, is very word salad. Well, it isn't, though. That's the thing. Not everything makes sense here, but if you approach everything as a nested metaphor, there is some thread that consists throughout all of this. It's about somebody who is living life the best that they can. It's not perfect, it's not pretty, but it's good enough, and it spreads positivity around them. It encourages others to be themselves as well. Verse 1 introduces us to this narrator, character, maybe the artist, I don't know. It says, hello, I'm a monk. I'm on a grotesque lotus eating invisible porridge. Look, all the time. My blade is in the shape of yes, and I'm alive, living because of the future. I don't know what the thing about the invisible porridge is, but I like the idea of a blade shaped like yes. Again, metaphor. Don't think about this as a blade in the shape of the symbol of yes or the word of yes or whatever, but simply a blade that directs them towards the next possibility. Something interesting comes their way? Yeah, I'll do it. Metaphorically, this is their blade, as they are. Google translates it as monk, but the official video translates it as wandering stranger. So, kind of taking from samurai wandering nomadic. Well, can you be a samurai if you're a nomad? Aren't samurai bound to rulers? I don't know. I don't know. My Japanese history is a bit rusty here. Anyways, though, taking the idea of a warrior with a blade, but instead of using it for violence, uses it to achieve the most out of life. They wander with their yes-shaped blade in search of the next frontier, what might be the next cool thing for them to do. It says, though, in the pre-chorus that I don't like Google's translation of this, but it happened so fast with like one syllable at a time on the screen. I wish I could remember what it said. Anyways, it's Google translates to I'm a melting bad boy with bad boy ink and my own hidden knife. The idea here, though, is that there's tapestry that shows my history. You know, my body is a book kind of idea. And if you read it, you'd see my past. And it's not filled with great things. Not all of it, anyways. Continues to say that if I cover it with honey and hide it, well, the scars can't really be erased, can they? So you can't sugarcoat the past. You can't alter it, you can't change it. You just have to accept it for what it is. And this song goes on and on. I'm not going to say that I understand all of it. I got really lucky with the first couple of stanzas being kind of readable to me. But the metaphors get deeper and deeper as we go on, and many go over my head. At one point, even saying that I'll show you that now I will rewrite the star chart, the true light of 000000000000000. What? It says I'll float like I will look like floating skin, and our bodies are covered in wounds when the blood clouds roar and melt the sun to the biggest lid we ever dreamed of. Like, I get the gist of it. Living life to the fullest and, you know, accepting our flaws and watching the sun melt, living long enough to see this. But, like, is there another layer to that? Because it kind of comes out of nowhere and it is some bizarre imagery. And that's pretty much the gist of it. Like I said, there's a few stanzas in here that right over my head. But I get the general gist is about being who you are, being truthful and faithful to that, accepting your past, living with no regret, and, you know, doing as much as you can to make sure your future is interesting. As was stated at the beginning, I'm living and alive now because of my future. I'm not living stagnantly. I'm not living a boring life. No one's going to ever wonder if you could actually call these days of mine living. I'm going to make sure I live to the fullest so that my future is interesting. So that my future self has something good to look back on. Maybe the memories are going to be hard. Maybe there's going to be hardship. Maybe I'm going to make mistakes, but at least it won't be boring. And that also seems to be the way the song was written. Is it perfect? No. Is it cohesive all the time? No. But it is unique. It is interesting. It's certainly not boring. If the song is about accepting your flaws and just being yourself and doing things that aren't boring, I think the song does a fantastic job of encompassing that and portraying this narrator musically. And it does a fantastic job of that, bringing together a bunch of disparate parts and making something larger out of it. The song does a great job of saying, I am not a singular, I am of multitudes. See me multifaceted. And I can get behind that artistically. Sonically, I even think it's kind of digestible. I didn't dislike it. I don't know if I'd search out more of it, but I would not be upset if I was recommended more music like it. It's just not. It really takes a specific mindset to get into, and I will say I was not ready for this. So yeah, those are my thoughts on what is this? Oh yeah, Hakushi Hasegawa's KYŌFUNOHOSHI. KYŌFUNOHOSHI. I think that's pronounced properly. Anyways, those are my thoughts on it. What are your thoughts? Is there anything that stood out to you that maybe I didn't touch on? Something to be corrected on? Maybe I misspoke about something. Let me know. Put all that stuff down in the comment section. Any thoughts, general ideas you have about the song, your own interpretation of things? I'm always down to hear some of that. Above that, in the description box, you'll find a link to Linktree. It takes you here, this little menu thing. You can find links to my music, ways to support the channel, a link to the Discord server, and so much more. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I greatly appreciate all three of those. That wraps it up for this one. I'll be back tomorrow, though, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 p.m. UTC. As usual, we're going to check out the final song for this week's theme and probably some new music. Until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever you choose to watch my videos.